Greetings and welcome to another episode of the Unnamed Bracketology podcast. My name is Kerry Miller, joined as always by my good friend Graham Doran. Graham, it's Big 12 Thursday. It's Big 12 Chuck E. Cheese Thursday for us. I'll see you there in like an hour. I still can't believe Chuck E. Cheese survived the pandemic. I feel like the Chuck E. Cheese we grew up with probably started the pandemic, but it's nice and clean now. We should have done the pod there. How fun would that have been?
That Chuck E. Cheese podcast would have been legit. I feel like that's the one place in life that I'm an actual regular is Chuck E. Cheese. So gotta live it up at the cheese when you can.
That's your cheers? That's the one place everybody knows your name is Chuck E. Cheese? I don't know. You should be bragging about that one. Oh my. Anyway, Big 12 Thursday, firing up the spreadsheet here. There it is. There we go. And we've broken it into the teams definitely in the field. These six are all battling for protected seeds at this point, although, at some point BYU actually has to beat somebody if we're going to actually put them in the four seed conversation when all is said and done. But I think there is we talked the other day about how there's kind of like a line in the sand between, Michigan/Nebraska at 5, and then those other teams on the 2 seed line. I feel like there's a pretty clear delineation between Kansas and BYU at this point, not only in the Big 12, but like on the national level, where there's no real argument for BYU to be ahead of Kansas at this point. I don't think, but we do both have them like side by side. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I think I actually spent a little bit of time just making sure I was comfortable with that order, and I do feel pretty good about it right now. Of course, after Saturday, it will be clear one way or the other, but I just think BYU's lack of really, truly top-end wins is starting to become glaring at this part of the season.
Is Darren Peterson actually going to play in that game, or is he going to hide from AJ?
I think he's going to show up, and I think he's going to send a message about who the best player in college basketball is.
That would be fun. One note on Kansas here, as we talk about their schedule, I have there that they have the epitome of brutality ahead of them because even listing the 3 biggest games felt like not enough. Versus BYU on Saturday, at Texas Tech on Monday, versus Arizona the following Monday, at Iowa State on Valentine's Day, versus Houston on the 23rd, at Arizona on the 28th. We are going to find out about Kansas in a big way over the next 4 weeks. How do you think they'll fare in those 6 games? I'm sure you've had all of them circled on some sort of Jayhawks calendar in your house.
I think they're probably looking at about 3-3, which is actually a pretty decent accomplishment considering the schedule ahead. Just a really tough schedule, not just for Kansas, but you look at the other teams on here, right? Like Iowa State's got to go to Arizona, to BYU, Houston at home. Like the Big 12 is just incredibly top heavy. And I actually can't even really recall at any point, any conference that was this top heavy. Because once you get down to UCF, that is a massive downgrade. But even that, from UCF on down, is a massive downgrade again.
Yeah.
Like the bottom half of the league is just not anywhere close to the top half of the league. And these top 6 are truly all elite basketball teams.
There haven't been many head-to-head games between them thus far. I mean, Houston played both theirs against Texas Tech. You had the Iowa State-Kansas game. There were probably 1 or 2 others, but it feels like it's not only top-heavy, but also backloaded. Like Houston has this in the span of 7 days at Iowa State versus Arizona at Kansas. Godspeed. If Kingston Flemings scores 30 in each of those games, he might win National Player of the Year. But wanted to hit on Houston real quick before we move down to UCF and the other part of that bubble. So they had that split with Texas Tech, and they haven't done a whole lot else. Like I'm having a hard time getting them up on the 2 seed line. I have them at 9, so they're right there for me. You have them at 8. I just, for me, it's just they don't have enough of those marquee wins. Now, granted, I have Gonzaga up there, but Gonzaga only has 1 loss, and it was to a 1 seed on a neutral court. They lost it by 40, but still neutral against a 1 seed, not a big deal. How'd you get Houston at 8?
Yeah, I think when you're talking about like 9 versus 8, we're talking very similar
Yeah.
analysis. And I think you could just see it right there, right? You get quad 1A. You got Arizona over there at 5-0. Iowa State's 2-1. Texas Tech and Kansas both have 3 wins there. As I mentioned, BYU doesn't, but look at Houston. 1-2 is not a strong mark against quad 1A for that high up in the bracket. The fact that they're even able to get into the 2 seed conversation with a 1-2 record against quad 1A, I think speaks to how well Houston looks when they do play well, which is the vast majority of the time. So there's a lot of eye test involved there for me with Houston, because I do think their resume is lacking compared to some of the other teams in that area.
Yeah, they're definitely there eye test wise, predictive metrics wise, no doubt about that. We also have a pretty sizable divide between us on Iowa State. I think just the fact that they have easily the worst loss, really, among any teams in this conversation at Cincinnati, and even their second best win against St. John's wasn't that great. I think we really fell in love with Iowa State when they went out and beat Purdue by 23 at Mackey Arena, but is that win even that good anymore now that the Boilermakers have really fallen? I mean, that's still very much a good win. I'm joking there. It's still quad 1A. It's still great, but it's not as great as it was before. And for that to be pretty clearly the only, super marquee win they have, I have some question marks about the Cyclones. Again, just they're good. I just couldn't justify getting them up to that 2 seed line.
Yeah, I think the thing that stood out for Iowa State for me was obviously that win over Purdue, but also when you just break down their quad records too, 5-2 against quad 1 is very nice. 2-1 winning against quad 1A, and then 6-0 against quad 2. I think people often overlook how important quad 2 is, but it
Yeah, oh
really
yeah,
is. Like,
100%.
those are quality wins, and the fact that they're 11-2 against quality teams, I think the committee would respect it. I do agree with you that Iowa State could be anywhere in that 6-11 range, and I wouldn't find it like I wouldn't be saying the committee's wrong if they were anywhere in that spot. I went as high as I could, and I think you're probably about as low as you can, but I don't think either is bad. I just sometimes when you have a team like that, it's what's most impressionable to you at that time. And for me, I just think that Purdue win, when you get the committee in that room together, that might be the thing that they're all like, hey, you guys saw that Purdue game, right? Wow, what a performance. And it could literally be as easy as that's the thing we all watched and we liked.
Didn't know there was so much toxic masculinity in the committee room. Wow, you guys all. All
We're
right, let's
talking
scroll down.
Friday.
Bracketology. Where's the ice cream bar? Oh, I didn't get rid of. Oh, I'm sorry. This is terrible. Get rid of those errors. Gross. All right, here's the Big 12 bubble, as it were. There's nobody else down there, right? Yeah. So, like you said earlier, UCF really on an island. We have 6 teams all in the top 4 seeds. We have, 9 teams not in the field and not all that close, and UCF just smack dab in the middle as like a 7 or an 8 seed. Uh, you're a little bit higher on UCF than me. I don't have any real argument there. I mean, 7 or 8 seed, either way. What do you think their path is to actually getting up to like a 5 or a 6 seed?
Well, I mean, you see it over there at Houston, at BYU versus Texas Tech.
Sure.
Not an easy path. You want to get higher, you're going to have to win some of those games. And obviously, they already have that to a certain extent with the Kansas win at home. And also, at Texas A&M is a very good win. Like, does Texas A&M jump out as a terrific win? No, but the fact it's on the road, the committee will be paying a lot of attention to that. So I think UCF right now, I think we're far enough into the season, being 16-4 with those quality wins. I do think it would stand out a bit to the committee. But I think if they want to get higher, they're going to have to start converting some of those chances against the top teams on their schedule. That's going to be really, really tough. So I feel good about UCF making the tournament. I don't necessarily feel great about them landing, like a 6 or a 7 seed. I think they're probably looking more at like a 9, maybe even a 10 by the time we get to Selection Sunday, just because they're going to have to convert some of those other chances.
Yeah, when we started doing this, 3.5 weeks ago at Texas A&M, I mean, that was a nice win. Didn't seem like much. Now the Aggies are alone in first place in the SEC. Who saw that coming? But UCF hasn't really moved at all since we started doing this. At Oklahoma State, they had that loss early January, and then since then they've just been kind of keeping the status quo. Big opportunities ahead for them against Houston and Texas Tech in the next week. We'll see if they can move the needle or not. I think if they were to lose both of those games, it starts to, you know, not a bad loss, but the fact that they're 16-4 is probably the best thing about their resume, if we're being honest. So if they become 16-6, even with a pair of quad 1A losses, I think maybe they slip a little bit. But we'll see what the other, 7 and 8 seeds decide to do around them. Anything on any of these bubbly outside the field Big 12 teams you want to touch on? I know there's been a lot of talk about TCU. I forget who it was. It wasn't you, but somebody was like, "Yeah, I know they lost to New Orleans, but those wins over Florida and Wisconsin." I'm like, now, hold on, you can't just brush aside a quad 4 loss to New Orleans because it happened 3 months ago. That's the worst loss that any team in the conversation has suffered.
Yeah, I think could they get away with 7-1 in quad 4 and 1-1 in quad 3? Yeah, maybe, but you got to be better against Q1 and Q2 if that's the case. You got to be more like a Stanford there in order to get away with that. I think TCU still has probably of the teams I see there, TCU, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, and Baylor. I think they have the best chance to ultimately make the field. But the losses are starting to mount with 8 losses at this stage of the season. They're going to have to be really good from here on out. Tough task. West Virginia, I think, still has a path, but obviously they need more quality wins. I do want to touch on Oklahoma State and Baylor, both in particular. Oklahoma State does not have a road win yet this year.
Really?
Where are they going to come from? Nobody has made the tournament without at least 2 true road wins. Selection committee's not going to take it unless you can win some games on the road, and I don't see it for Oklahoma State. Could it happen? Of course, but at best case scenario, I think they're winning 2 road games, but I don't even think that's going to happen. I think they're looking at 1 or 0 most likely, and I don't think Oklahoma State's going to be a serious contender because of that. For Baylor, look at that Q1 and Q2 record, 4-9. That's really, really tough. That's you're stretching it the absolute limit to have a difference of -5 in Q1 and Q2 on a win-loss record. And now with no wins against quad 3, I think Baylor's – I mean, it sounds weird to say it because we're in January. I think Baylor is almost all the way eliminated from the NCAA tournament at this point. I don't see them coming back into the picture. I don't think they're going to be close to making the tournament by the time we get to Selection Sunday.
The only good thing you can say for Baylor is the opportunities are ahead of them. At Iowa State versus BYU, they have a neutral against Louisville in Fort Worth. They host Arizona. They play at Houston. They play at UCF. So that's 6 quad 1 games right there. They're at West Virginia this weekend. So 7 quad 1 games. Maybe even that game at Kansas State could be a quad 1 game. So they've got the chances, but we've seen nothing to assume that they'll actually convert on any of them. I mean, they've been just a mess lately. Lost by 10 to Cincinnati the other night? Yeah, I can't see them coming back. On both TCU and West Virginia, I thought it was interesting that for all those, 6 great teams in this league, and both of them, their third toughest game remaining is against UCF. Like the opportunities for them to get those big wins are 2. They each have 2 chances. So we'll see if either of them can convert on any of those. But that'll wrap us up for now. We are taking our kids to Chuck E. Cheese, just to throw that out there. It's not just 2 guys going there. I mean, you can get beers at this Chuck E. Cheese, but we're not just hanging out like weirdos. But until next time, take care and enjoy the hoops.